Okay, so this is another one in my series. I'm here in southern Ecuador, and this one is how to ride on a long journey. You know, how to get prepared and what to do, and getting smart about doing a long trip. Okay, so number one is get prepared. The night before, make sure you've got everything ready. There's nothing worse than having to wake up in the morning and then get everything ready and get on your way, because you want to be leaving at sunrise. Okay, not before then. You know, I've done it a couple of times before then, and it's pretty dangerous, you know, because other people on the road just think they've got the whole road to themselves, you know. So prepare everything. Get all your bags packed, all organised. Now, when you're packing bags, a really smart thing to do is to make sure that you have your bags packed in a way where the things that you're more than likely or could need is easily accessible. I have my bags. I've got my camping gear in one bag. I've got my camping equipment in one bag. I've got my clothes and my drone in another bag. I've got my tools and gear in another bag. So I've got two cases and two bags, and then I've got my tent up on top of my back case, which also houses all my computers and camera equipment. So I've got everything neatly in place. Okay, so the night before, what you want to do is you want to the night before, what you want to do is you make sure everything's charged up. As an example, I've got a drone, and if I don't charge the drone and leave it a couple of days, it gets down to about 80%, and then it flies back to home at about 40%, 30%. So you only get about 5 minutes of flight time. So you've got to make sure they're charged. Cameras, all your phones, everything like that. Another smart thing to do before you leave is to make sure that you download the Google, if you're using Google Maps as your navigation, make sure you download the region, because you will lose cell phone coverage. And then, I mean, if you're just going on the major highways, you can just stick to the highways. But even then, some of them become a bit tricky, because some of them become dirt, and you're thinking, am I on the right road? And if you got the sat nav set up correct, if you got your map set up correct, you won't have that nervous problem. So you've got everything charged, you've got downloaded the maps, you've got all your bags packed correctly. Let's talk about the second thing, is when you leave. You leave you should be ready to go after you've drank your coffee, had your cup of tea or whatever rocks your boat, and had some breakfast. Always advised to have something, you know, for breakfast, you know. When you're riding, I don't suggest that you eat heavy at any stop. You know, I stop a lot and I'll have a little bit of meat, which is probably a little bit heavy, but it's protein, so it's not such a drain with like carbs are, and you'll get meat and vegetables and stuff like that, or meat and salad. And these are little towns like I'm going through now. You'll see someone just up here. Oh, he's a mechanic, I think. They're called teller mechanics, or no, body work. But you know, there'll be places all along the side of the road, everywhere you go in Central and South America, where you can get a bite to eat, and a quick bite to eat, and it's freaking delicious too. So the next thing is, we've prepared everything. We've got our bags packed correctly. We've downloaded the nav. We've got all the things charged. We've had breakfast, and we get on the road. Now, how far should you ride in a day? I mean, I've done 13 hours, which I think is completely the maximum. I mean, you're sore all over at the end of 13 hours of riding. What you do is you stop I stop every 2 hours for 15 minutes, not 30 minutes. 30 minutes would be the maximum I would stop, and that's when usually it's not my fault. Usually I'm waiting for someone to cook something, or something's a bit slow. I don't suggest you just stop at gas stations. That's your stop, because you're basically, most of the time you're sitting on the bike anyway, and you're off and gone in a few minutes, so that's not really a rest. And it's not, look, the best place to stop is you see a good view and it's safe to stop. sit down, and maybe if there's somewhere you can sit down for a minute. I mean, I like to stand up because I've been sitting down for 15-20 minutes on a 2 hours, sorry, on a motorbike. But you might want to, you know, and a lot of the times a good place to stop is with some great views is some bus stops. Some of the bus stops have incredible views, and there's usually a little bit of extra area there where you can chuck your bike. So, and it also depends on the road you're travelling on. So, I mean, this road here, I could easily do probably 700-800 kilometres on a road like this in a day in 12-13 hours. But your biggest issue is not, you don't like, if you go to Google Maps it says 4 hours 50 minutes, that's usually pretty accurate. You usually catch up a bit, but the problem is Central and South America don't have a freight network by rail, so everything goes by truck. So you could be sat behind 4 or 5 trucks at any one time. I'm in the middle of nowhere now, so there's not many trucks around transporting goods because there's no towns to transport them to. But when you go onto them, when you've got major towns in front of me, you'll see trucks everywhere, and they can be pretty frustrating. But you just got to be patient. Another thing you'll have to contend with is staying. You should all, even if you're going to overtake them, stay back 50 yards. The reason is most of the trucks are not serviced well, and the shit that they blow out just comes straight back at you if you're sitting behind them for 5-10 minutes. You do that 20-30 times a day, which you will. It's not very good for your health. So and if you're going to be riding on dirt, I mean, dirt roads, the maximum I've got out of a full day on dirt is around about 270 k's. I know I'm a pretty careful driver on dirt. I'm not the most experienced off-roader, so I take my time. I don't try to be a hero because, especially if you're travelling on dirt, you're going to have if you're travelling on dirt, you're going to have a lot of times where you need to stop off, and you're really going to be in the middle of nowhere more than likely. And if something happens to you, you're pretty much a goner, you know. I also make sure, I don't know if the camera can show you the back there. I've got extra water for when I'm going on off-roading. See, now I'm sitting too close to this guy, even though he's not blowing smoke. If he was blowing smoke, I'll be way back. And I don't care, like, he's not going to affect me that much, you know. You just take your time, and when you get a good couple of 100 yards of free space, you can take them, you know. I mean, with this thing, there's a KTM 1290 Super Adventure, so I could take him here easy. I'm in third, and I can just, first few seconds are a bit slow, and then bang, you know. So what you should do is always plan to be a little bit conservative with how far you think you're going to go. Don't try to be a hero and get on the saddle for 12-13 hours in a day, because believe me, you're going to be broke the next day, and you're only going to want to do 100 or 200 k's, you know. I usually try to get it around the 6 to 8 hours, you know, between cities, and I try to get, even because I've got to work, as long as the internet. So when I research hotels, I look at people's reviews on Wi-Fi and stuff like that. The hotels will say, oh, look at that view. The hotels will say that they've got high-speed Wi-Fi, and I've walked out of a couple because the Wi-Fi was just completely useless, and I couldn't even do basic stuff. Look at those views, hey? This is just, you're going to see this everywhere in Central and South America. There's only a couple of places that are flat, and there's nothing much to see. And that's, you know, a couple of days of riding. I mean, America's like that. South of America, of the main North America, south of North America is pretty much flat, pretty boring. You know, until you go inland, you're not going to get much out of that. But this is pretty much the norm that I get to see every single day. So that's the distances you should cover. If it's a good flat highway straight, you might get 1,000 kilometres out of a day, you know, 650 miles. If you're on a road like this, I don't think you're going to get that. I mean, because you're going to get held up so many times, and you have to drive through villages. And I always suggest drive slowly through villages. A couple of things: dogs will go for you. And kids are everywhere, and they're walking along the roads and stuff like that. And if you're going to get done by the police, and believe me, you just don't want to be, not local police, because that you're in for an hour, 2 hours of crap. You know, that from the I haven't had that experience because I haven't done anything wrong. So, well, not that I haven't done anything wrong, but I haven't been caught doing anything wrong. But I drive particularly slowly through towns. So I'm driving really slowly today. I'm just enjoying my ride, you know. So the other thing is, I had it in off-road mode then, my bike, which I was doing a bit of off-roading about 20 minutes ago. So I switched it back to street. It's a little bit, takes a little bit off the edge of the bike off-road and tightens it up a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, take your time. My helmet's just, I just accidentally unlocked my helmet. Not clever. I'm going to stop in a sec. Yeah, I mean, you're never going to have any problems with fuel. You know, unless you've got a really small tank. And then on my right side, on my left side, I've got an extra gallon in there if I ever need it, but I never need it. But I mean, I probably will once I get Peru, Chile, if I want to go for it. So it's just all about planning and taking your time and just relax. Now, as far as the other thing to do is grab a couple of snacks on your way. You know, have a couple of snacks handy, some chew bars or some energy bars or something like that. I'm just going to stop here and fix my helmet. Yeah, so you know, just make sure you've got enough water on board. Get a backpack. I've got a climb backpack. It's excellent. So I suggest you get a backpack with plenty of, and get 1 or 2 litres of water on board each day. I don't think you're going to have too many problems, but you just want to make sure that you don't have any problems. Hang on a second. And I'm back. Yeah, just making sure you've got plenty of water on board. I mean, I've got about a litre in my backpack, plus I've got a gallon in the back tank here. It just makes a huge difference if you want to stop over and just have something cold. If I'm staying at a hotel or something, they've got, or even a hostel, they sometimes have those ice machines. I chuck 1 or 2 handfuls of ice, and that usually keeps the water pretty cool for the whole day. The other thing you're going to encounter, see this sign here? They're called topes, speed bumps, whatever. But you'll see them, and some of them are just non-existent. They'll actually alert you to them, but then there'll be nothing there. So there's no speed hump here, and it said there's speed humps. So yeah, sorry, I had the other visor up. Cornering, long rides, it's just so much fun. I mean, here's a bit slippery here. I've been here before, and I came through here last night, and my back wheel came out a little bit on that spot there. But you just got to be careful, and you always for the long rides in Central and South America. See where the truck is now. I mean, you do it anyway, but you have to do it. This is your riding spot position pretty much when you're traveling in South America. It's different everywhere else. It's just on the right side of the center line of the road, and you always want to. People overtake here. You won't believe the risks that people take, and I've been on the road now for quite a few months, and I can tell you right now, I think I've seen 10 accidents, and I can't tell you which I can only say for sure one of them was a fatality, a kid on a motorbike, and probably there's 2 trucks collided head on, so I reckon there's a few dead there. Yesterday there was, just coming into town, there was someone had just smashed into a pole up the road here somewhere, just going too fast, tried to overtake and then realised they couldn't overtake, braked heavily, lost control, went across the road, hit her. I don't think they were too badly injured, because from what I could see as they hit, they weren't going that fast. But I mean, I was probably about 400, about this far away when I saw it, and saw it in the distance. So you know, you just got to be careful and just take your time. See, really, I really shouldn't overtake this guy here because I'm in a little bit of a town, but he is going very slowly. So, and it's fine to overtake, but I just take a lot more care in towns. That's all. See, this says the taupe, and there's no taupe. Just got some lines. But believe me, there's all different types. There's the ripple type. There's the smooth, you know, just get your ass a little bit out of the seat, off the seat type. And then you've got some monsters, and I've been surprised by a couple of them and really could have damaged the bike. You'll only get them in towns. Sometimes you get them a little bit out of town, like sometimes when there's big long curves in the road, they'll just put them there, and it's crazy. But yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm in my town now. I'm not sure. There's two towns that look exactly the same. I'm going to stay on this track though. Going to go for a bit of a ride up the hills here and see if I can find another off-road. Stop for a little while and look on my maps. Another thing to do too is, even if you're sticking to the highways, you don't need them, but I always have a map in my case here, a road map, and usually they're pretty darn good, you know. I haven't had too many problems. There's only once I went about 60 miles off-road, and then I got to a gate at someone's farm, and like obviously no one goes on the road, so they just decided to put their own gate there, and it was locked. But luckily the guy came down, who was the owner of the property, or one of the workers of the property, came down and unlocked it for me so I could get going. But I just got there and I just thought, okay, what the fuck can I do here? I thought I was completely screwed and I was going to end up getting back to the city at night. But yeah, it's a little bit of planning and I was fine, you know. So try to always carry a physical map, because there are going to be times where your sat nav or your Google Maps just goes offline. I mean, I've found that Ecuador is probably the worst country so far as the roads and Google Maps. It's just, you know, and the thing is, the countries and their road authorities are the ones that supply this stuff to Google, then like all their roads. I mean, Google doesn't do it, doesn't drive their machines around here that often, and some countries don't allow them in there. So sometimes they rely on other countries to provide them with the data, and so I don't know whether it's the Ecuador government, but I've got to say a lot of things are a little bit weird here in Ecuador. Just the processes and stuff like that. Down. You get that a lot. They try to stop you for money. You know, usually it's just kids. Never feels threatening, but they. I actually don't mind giving money to people, but I'd rather give it if I see a woman, like a young lady on the side of the road with about 2 or 3 kids. You know, I'll spare a few dollars. What the fuck? I don't like it when people just flash you like that, and they do that a lot, where they flash you for no particular reason. Well, I hope no particular reason, and then you start to worry about your bike and your tyres or your gear, you know. And some of them are just doing it, oh, you know, cool, you've got a motorbike. But, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to stop up here. But anyway, it's good talking. You got any questions or comments about long distance riding? Just mark them in the comments, and I'll get back usually within a few hours if I can. If not, during the day. One last thing too, if you're American, I highly suggest you get T-Mobile. And I don't give a shit about the company. They're probably a bunch of assholes like the rest of them. But the thing about it is, with T-Mobile, you get access. I think there's only been one country, Belize maybe. I can't remember who it was, but there's one country where I didn't get access. Out of all the countries I've been to in Central and South America, I got free data in all those countries with the T-Mobile. You'll have to ask them about what plan it is. I pay about $80 a month. but it's been friggin' phenomenal compared to like AT&T where you get nothing, you got to pay for any data, and you basically just got to switch your phone off. So it's a shout out to T-Mobile, and a bit of a comeuppance for AT&T is to get their act together. Some of these big, I mean, how easy is it? But anyway, I'm going to talk about that in another video. All right, thanks guys.